A very good morning to all our viewers online. Thank you for joining us on the Real Electrical and Electronic Engineering webinar series organized by the Faculty of Engineering, Multimedia University, Cyberjaya. My name is Sima Priya and I'm a lecturer with the Faculty of Engineering. Please stay tuned with us till the end of this webinar for you to get your e-certificate through the QR code which will be flashed at the end of this webinar series. We have the webinar series organized throughout the school holidays from the 7th to the 10th of June, every morning from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., which will be featuring various topics on upcoming trends in electronics and electrical engineering. How many of you know somebody who actually owns an electrical vehicle? If you're already familiar with the concept, you know that electrical vehicles are an environmental friendly version of a car in contrast to using a petrol based car. But unknowingly, electrical vehicles are actually generating a huge amount of waste. And this waste has now captured the attention of experts worldwide to repurpose it to use it as an energy supply system. We are privileged today to have with us Engineer Associate Professor Gobi Ramasamy, who is an expert in repurposing these electrical vehicle batteries to use it for alternative applications as energy supply systems. Good morning, Dr. Gobi.
Good morning. Good morning. Hi,
Thank you
Siva.
for joining us on this webinar series.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
So, Dr. Gobi, maybe you can start by explaining to our viewers what exactly is an electrical vehicle.
All right. So the cars that we see actually on the road at the moment, still in Malaysia, these are called. They're actually driven by the internal combustion engine, or they call it in the short form ICE. Um, Obviously, they're using fuel, petrol, or diesel to actually drive the car. So obviously, if you notice that there will be a lot of CO2 emission out of these cars. So in order to minimize this, so what the whole world, in fact, all the car manufacturers now, they are trying to face off this internal combustion engines and try to go into electric vehicles. So electric vehicles, basically, the old engine is actually replaced with electric motors, right? And obviously, when you talk about electric motors, it is actually powered up by electricity, and that electricity is actually stored in a battery, which is also placed inside that same car. So, therefore, since it is running with electricity, obviously there is no CO2 emission, so it is very clean, right? So it is so much preferred in the future because we really wanted to minimize on the CO2 emission. In fact, all the manufacturing, the car manufacturers, if you notice, they already start facing off. In fact, like most manufacturers in Japan, they are trying to face off all the internal combustion engine cars by 2030. Okay, so that means very soon you will actually notice that only electric vehicles will be sold. You know, if you want to buy a new car, you want to own a new car, it is going to be electric vehicles, right?
Okay, thank you. So these electrical vehicles, they are operated by batteries. And I think the reason that you are actually here today online is to explain to us why these batteries have become such a waste menace in our society.
All right. Probably you, I think even the audience probably have seen, even in the Facebook, you can actually see there's a lot of um, posts talking about e-cycling, electronic recycling, because there's a lot of, for example, everyone uses, handphone now. An handphone, you actually carry a battery, obviously, because, it's a mobile. In order to power up that handphone, you need a battery. So I think everyone knows about it. So you have a very small piece battery, which is placed, in your tiny handphone. And you also know that, after some time, usually at night, you actually charge the battery because, you use up all the energy from the battery. So obviously, you need to charge it back. Now, what happened over the time, you actually realize that, it depends on the usage, how you use your handphone. If you're using a lot for gaming or you use a lot for video purpose and so on, you notice that your battery will not last long. That means you'll notice that you charge overnight, you start to use in the morning, and before noon you notice that all drain out. So that means you have to charge again. That shows that the battery capacity has dropped. It's time for you to replace that battery and replace it to a new battery. Now the question is, what are you going to do with that the battery that is actually discarded? Can you hear me? I ask you. Right. So the question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to throw it to the bin, or what are you going to do with that? And looking into a numbers of mobile user, just imagine if even 10% or 20% of them are replacing the batteries every month, you're talking about huge numbers of millions numbers of batteries that is going to be thrown away, or somehow it's not going to be used in the phone anymore. Now the same thing is going to happen. If you notice the same concept, if you understand that we need a battery to operate the handphone, the same thing goes, you need a battery to operate the electric vehicles, right? The same thing will happen depending on your usage, depending on your driving skill, driving style, the capacity of the battery, because you're going to be charging and discharging and charging and discharging just like what is happening in the phone. And after some time, we are talking about 5 to 7 years after you use the electric vehicles, the battery is going to again have some issue in terms of capacity. I mean, you may have a problem of having a mileage. That means you charge it overnight, you're supposed to go for 100 kilometer, but then you notice that you only can able to go to 30 kilometer, because the battery can only give you up to that. Number one. Number two, maybe you cannot go, your pickup, when you want to accelerate the car, you notice that the battery couldn't actually give you enough power to speed up. So you notice the performance of the car will also drop. So this will happen usually within 5 to 7 years after you use the electric vehicles. So the same thing what we do, just like what we did for the N4, we will actually replace this battery, the entire battery in the electric vehicles, with a new battery. Now the big question is, what are you going to do with that battery that is discarded from these electric vehicles? What are you going to do? If you look at a phone, you're talking about small, tiny capacity of batteries. But here we are talking about 50 or 60 times bigger in terms of capacity. And if, as I said at the opening, that if if you notice all the cars on the road now, millions of cars, all of them are going to be replaced to electric vehicles very soon, because there is not going to be any supply of internal combustion engine anymore after 2030. That means all of them, whatever cars you're going to see on the road, all of them are going to be electric vehicles. And after 5 or 6 years of operation, all of them are going to change to a new batteries. Now going to be talking about millions of discarded batteries out of these cars. Now the big question is, what are we going to do with this battery? Right? Is a huge problem, because if you put it in a warehouse, you need a space. Space is costly. If you want to recycle it, it is also costly and it is not environmental friendly. Obviously, you cannot just throw it away. Okay, that is going to give even bigger impact to the environment. So, what are we going to do with this battery?
Hey, thank you, Dr. Gobi. So basically, I think to summarize what you were actually trying to say is that we actually have to take these batteries and do something else with them, right? Repurpose them
Perfect.
for a different application.
Exactly. We have to do something, because the options that we have is like, it is definitely, because the whole idea of coming out with electric vehicles, as I said from the beginning, is because we want to reduce the impact to the environment. So it has to be sustainable. That means the entire life cycle of the cars has to be clean and giving a least impact on the environment. It's not just during the operation of the electric vehicles, but it's also during the disposal and so on.
Right.
Yes,
So by having a proper waste management of the battery, we are actually making the electrical vehicle the real green car that it's supposed to be. Because right now, it
Exactly.
doesn't
That
work
is
with this.
the challenges that electrical engineers are, yeah, facing now. Because as electrical engineers, we are not only coming up with a new technology, but we are looking into a life cycle of that equipment or whatsoever we are coming up. Because it's not only during the operation, but it is even the pre, during the production of that particular equipment, and also the post. What happened after that equipment has, disposal of that equipment. So we have to look at all that, is not just during the operation. So that's one of the challenges of all the new electrical engineers now in the world,
Okay,
actually.
that's interesting. But before we come to the challenges, maybe you can explain to our viewers some examples of the applications for these repurposed batteries.
Right. Um, okay. Actually, this thing we have been doing it. You know, if you notice, I think the audience probably you can imagine that all this while, when you are using a torchlight, example, when you're using a torchlight, after sometimes after you use it for some time, obviously you want to use it at night because you want to see something, and then you want to you know search something or whatsoever, or you're going into a hiking or whatsoever at night. But after some time of usage of this torchlight, you notice that the light get dimmer. So obviously, once a light gets dimmer, what you usually do naturally is we will replace the battery. Okay, we will replace the battery with a new battery so that we get brighter light again. And then what happened is the discarded battery, what we do is we can actually just throw it into the bin. That is normal practice that we have. But do you know that that particular battery, let's say it's AAA batteries, you can actually use it for your remote control, for your car, sorry, your fan remote control, your aircon remote control, your TV remote control. You know, the same battery that you took it out from the torchlight, you can actually use it for months for the different application like TV remote control, aircon remote control, and other applications that requires less power to operate. Torchlight, because you need the brightness, so it actually will absorb. It actually required very high power to actually to give you that brightness. So once it slightly dimmer, then obviously but the capacity of the battery is still good. Now, similarly, when we have taken out the battery from the electric vehicles, it still has the capacity. It's just that it is not suitable for the operation of the car, electric vehicles, but it is suitable for many other applications. Example, we are working on street light. Okay, we are street lights that can be completely powered up with these batteries that is discarded from the electric vehicles. We can use it for all the small power station, even a small house, remote house, even the all the houses that has a solar power. Those who actually install a PV panels on top of the roof. At the moment, they don't use any storage system, but they can actually start to use these batteries, and they can actually power up at night. Because at night, what happen now is if you have a solar panel, you can only generate during the daytime, as you all know, but you are not storing it anyway. So you're just either using it during the daytime, but usually daytime nobody will be at home. Most of the people are at work or at school. So that means the usage is always at night. But at night, solar is not generating anything. So if we can actually store whatever energy that is generated during the daytime, store it in this battery, okay, and then at night we use it for our application like TV, lightings, So there are many applications that we can actually use this battery. As I said, some of it, I just give you some simple example like street lights, home solar panel system, even a remote area panels, with the solar panels, or even a remote, any small guardhouse, for instance, mobile police station, we can actually have this battery to power up.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gobi. I think at this point, some of us are probably wondering, I mean, I can buy a new lithium ion battery. at a very reasonable price. So why would I go through the hassle of actually repurposing an existing battery?
Okay, that's actually a good question. So now the point is we have to look at number one, if you are talking about, okay, just buying a new battery for all the new cars, all the new application, whatever application that requires a battery, you are just going to buy a new battery. Now, what is going to happen is number one, you see the lithium ion as itself, it has a lot of metals, a lot of materials. That is, you need to do a lot of mining and so on. So the shortage of that materials, number one, that is also giving a lot of environmental impact. Producing a new lithium-ion battery is also impacting the environment. You need to use gallons and gallons, 1,000 gallons of water, during the process of making a new lithium-ion batteries. So that is on the lithium-ion batteries. But if you are looking at these discarded batteries, which we use the term second life batteries, we are giving a second life for this discarded battery from the EV car, so we call it second life batteries. Now, these second life batteries, after the repurpose, we can actually use it for many applications. I mentioned it. So that means you can actually reduce the production of the new lithium-ion batteries. Number one, that means you already reducing the mining part, use of a lot of water, the process, use of a lot of electricity during the process of producing a new electricity, new lithium-ion batteries. Number one. Number two is we are actually talking about reusing back these batteries, which I told you at the beginning. You don't know what we are going to do with that because the size is so huge, the numbers are so big. We cannot keep it in a warehouse because it's too expensive. We cannot just throw it out. Recycling also is going to be very, very expensive. So all these are again going to give a very major, huge impact on the environment. And therefore, we need to give another life. Since it can be used, we should maximize the usage of these batteries. And in terms of the price, we are actually talking about second life battery, which is going to be 50% cheaper than the new lithium ion batteries. Okay, so that means most of the application now they don't go for energy storage system because they found it is too expensive to have an energy storage system. But now, since we can produce, we can actually provide battery pack, which is from the electric vehicles, which is repurposed, second life batteries we call it, at 50% cheaper. So that actually gives more opportunities for to maximize on the other applications. Like I said just now, you're using a solar, but you cannot use the energy generated from the solar at night. But when you really need energy at night, but with the storage system, you can actually use them at night. So it's like you are maximizing the PV system in your place.
Okay, yes, yeah, indeed. That was very, very, I should say, we put it in a very simple way, okay, for even our young viewers to understand why buying something new is not always the best solution. In fact, now in times of, dematerialization, use less things, go green, buy less material, I think the concept of repurposing is a very, very good concept to prolong the life of something that is perfectly in good shape and it can be used, but you just have to think of an alternative application for it. Yes,
Correct.
so Professor Gobi, maybe you can explain to us now how do electrical engineers actually fit into this battery repurposing, scenario? What is their role in doing this repurposing of the used batteries?
Correct. So if you look at these batteries, just like I go back because it's much easier for you all to understand. If you look at torchlight, as I go back to the example of torchlight, um, sometimes you might use the AAA, the small batteries, AAA batteries. Maybe there are four batteries inside one torchlight. So after you use it for some time, as I explained to you, you might want to change all the four batteries with the new four batteries. So now, okay, the old four batteries is out of that torchlight. Now, can we just use all these four batteries as I said, for say TV remote control? No, that's a question. No, definitely no, because there will be, because there are four different batteries. You will notice, in fact, some batteries might be still has a good capacity. Some maybe it is a little bit lower or it is completely gone, right? So that means there is some kind of testing and some study has to be done before we can reuse the battery for other application. Okay, otherwise you will be just simply, just take out from the torchlight, just putting it in another application. The application might not work, or it may not work as what we expected. So therefore, there is a process of that's why the process is called repurposing process. From the time we take out the battery from the electric vehicles, we have to actually take out the module, because there will be just like for the torchlight there are four batteries, so we have like sometimes 40 or 50 modules, we call it, within one battery in electric vehicle. We have to basically test each modules for various, of course, parameters to actually reuse. So we have to select the proper one, the correct one, and then we have to repack it. That means we have to, probably our audience know that, what will happen when the batteries are placed in parallel, and what will happen when the batteries are placed in series. Some application like a torchlight you put in series, what happened? The voltage will be higher. When you put in parallel, the voltage will be same, but you give more capacity, more current, right? So probably in the school, probably physics, I guess, they have learned this. So we need to decide, okay, depending on the application. Let's say if I want to use it for street light, as I mentioned, I need to know what type of light, I mean the LED or the street light that we are talking about. What is the capacity? What is the voltage required? What is the power required? So whether I need to repack it, how many modules I need to put in series, how many modules I need to put in parallel, so that I can repack it and then use it for that purpose. So that is actually the repurposing process. So there's a lot of, as electrical engineers, we need to actually understand the operation of the batteries, a little bit on the chemical of the batteries, because batteries are something that is going to be stored energy and is going to be discharged. The heat is going to be generated every time it's charging and discharging. So how do you manage the heat? Okay, that is also important. As you probably know that sometimes you have a phone, you put it inside the pocket, you notice, right? Why suddenly, your pocket get, hotter, right? I think everyone realize that. So that is because, there's some application is working on in your handphone. Something is running behind it. Okay, that means the battery is being used, somehow discharging, and that is actually producing the heat. That's why your handphone suddenly is heated up. You know, you notice that. That means you have to shut down some of the application. Something is running at the back. So similarly, right? So we need to actually do a lot of testing, because otherwise, when we are using it for the other application, it may go fail, or maybe it won't last long. Okay. So the electrical engineers need to do a study and testing of that discarded modules from the electric vehicles and repacking it accordingly. So the fundamental knowledge of electrical engineering is definitely applied there, and also the knowledge on, because battery is everywhere, energy storage system is everywhere. So electrical engineers are always equipped with a lot of fundamental knowledge about how to manage these batteries, because batteries are going to be everywhere now. So the application of the fundamental knowledge to do the testing and repacking it accordingly, then connect it to the applications.
Okay, so that means that brings us to another part of our discussion for today. This means that electrical engineers are actually going to play a very important role in battery waste management in the future.
For sure. Now, if I just give you a basic idea, if our audience can imagine, if they can just imagine this, the whole scenario, just focus on the electric vehicle system itself, how the electrical engineers can fit in, or they are going to somehow fit in, because just imagine now we are running with electric, the cars are with internal combustion engine. Okay, number one. Of course, there are a lot of mechanical system inside, obviously. And then when the car is running on the road, you notice that we have a petrol station, correct? Hundreds and I don't know, within less than 1 kilometer, you can always see one petrol station in both sides. You can see hundreds and thousands of petrol station along the road. And then we have a lot of workshops that maintain the car service, things like that. Just imagine in the near future, as I said, when the internal combustion engines are going to be phased off, all the cars that you see on the road are going to be replaced with electric vehicles. Just imagine what is going to happen. So that means the entire the car is going to be completely running with electrical system. Okay, completely electric because electric motors, that is the main actuators, that is the main part which is rotating the tire basically, the motor, electric motors. That is okay where the electric engineers has to be there to design and also to maintain the electric motors. And then we have a battery which is actually powering up the motors. So to maintain, okay, and also to design the battery. So we need electrical engineers to do so. And then you just imagine all the petrol station that we see now is all going to be replaced with the charging station. Just imagine all of them are going to be replaced to a charging. You already see that in shopping complex, some places. They even a petrol station they already have one or two charging station. Okay, why one or two? Because the numbers are not big. But eventually, petrols are not going to be there. So petrol stations are going to be changed to a electric charging station. So that means to design the charger system, to maintain the charger system, to operate the charger system, we need electrical engineers to do that. Okay, that means all the petrol station now, which probably you think, okay, electric engineers not much work to do that, but it's going to be mainly electric engineers now. Okay, number one. Then if you look into a workshop, the electric vehicles are going to go into the workshop. The entire operation, entire maintenance system, the servicing system, the equipment they are going to use to do the testing and maintain the electric vehicles, everything is going to be using electrical system. So we need electrical engineers to not only to sales the product related to the maintenance and servicing, also to maintain this workshop. Okay, so this is just a one example I give this. What is going to happen only on the electric vehicles? I'm not touching the other application. Okay, like smart grids and so many other stuff where the electrical engineers are needed. So the battery, obviously, as I said, the battery is going to be huge because there's a lot of batteries. Not we are talking about both sides. The new batteries are going to be also going to be there where the electrical engineers are going to be maintained and to supply and so on, and also to maintain and supply or do the repurposing of these discarded batteries in the future because the numbers are just going to keep on coming, right? So there's going to be a lot of huge amount of work that we have to do as electrical. In fact, we are shortage of electrical engineers now. So we need a lot of electrical engineers to fill up all this because the demands are so huge because the applications, everything is changing. They need a lot of electrical engineers to look after all these things because we cannot have other people to look into it because we need the fundamental knowledge of electrical engineering to do this job. Right.
Okay, great. That means Dr. Gobi has now established that uh, there is going to be a future for electrical engineers. I
Yes.
think there is a misconception among the general public that, engineers are going to be maybe replaced, by automation and by robots. But I mean, I think this niche field in the management of the electrical vehicle and the battery, which is actually a booming industry right now. Okay, it hasn't actually reached its maturity. So there's going to be lots of opportunities for electrical engineers to find a job. Okay, so having said that, Dr. Gobi, maybe you can advise me and the viewers also. Why is it we are having electrical engineering shortage all over the world suddenly?
Um, okay, of course, this one I think the young generation, I'm not trying to say anything about young. They are too smart. Okay, I have to accept the fact that they are not like my generation. They are too smart, um, uh, and they are equipped with a lot of advanced technology around them, even when they are small. So that means what I'm we need to understand is this. Even for people like us, I'm already an engineer for more than 20 years. I'm a professional engineer. By the day I start my journey as an electrical engineer and today, there's a lot of changes happening. And I see these youngsters, they are too smart to grab all this new thing because a lot of things has changed. Okay, I can give you a simple example. During the COVID, everyone actually learned online, correct? I don't think that would happen 20 years ago. Let's say that COVID happened 20 years ago. What would happen? You know what I mean or not? Because there's no internet at the time. Can you imagine if the COVID happened like 30 years ago?
Yeah, we would be having a very long holiday.
Yeah, I think because there's no way you can have any options of going out of the house. You are not connected in any way. But that is actually possible now. So that means things has changed. That in fact that is what we are doing in the university as well. We are not actually teaching our electrical engineers um, to just absorb whatever we have on the book or on the journal papers. We are actually creating them to think because you are too smart. As I said, the youngsters are now too smart. They know everything even before come into the university. Somehow they know, or they can able to grab it even before they come into the university. But in the university, what we are doing is as a professor, we are actually guiding them because we have experience looking at the things and what is actually happening. Like I explained about electric vehicles, we know what is happening, but we really need the youngsters to look into it because the technology is so advancing. I don't think people like me can able to cope up with the changes because it's too fast. There's a lot of new things. You need a lot of codings, a lot of knowledge about the fundamental of electrical engineering, but importantly is about the innovation and creativity, right? And which the youngsters now, they are so much, my goodness, they are extremely good in, you just give them something. Okay, just give them this pen and tell them, okay, I want you to do this. I think they will come up with amazing idea. So we need these kind of electrical engineers. As I mentioned to you, we use the repurposed battery for example application of the street lights. But I believe that there's a lot of things that we can do with these batteries, and we just come up with a new ideas. And then if you look at the entire system now, entire electrical system now, we are actually talking about automation. Okay, we are talking about intelligence, artificial intelligence and so on. So everything with the coding, everything is about intelligent intelligently controlled, and um, the maintenance and the servicing, the design part, everything is based on the computers. So we need the youngsters, the young, very vibrant brains to come and help us actually. Yeah, really, actually, I'm asking for help because as a I won't say I'm old, okay, but as an experienced engineers, I think that we need completely a new youngsters to look at all the issues and the problems and the opportunities from a different angle. Because like me, I can only see at certain angles because the way we are, brought up, the way the technology that we are exposed to and so on. But these youngsters, I'm telling you, they are amazing. So we need them to look into different angles because there's a lot of opportunities for the engineers, particularly electrical engineers, because as I said, you can imagine, just I gave you just example of electric vehicles alone. Like you can see that the opportunities that you have, in terms of electrical engineers, right? I don't know whether I answered your question because I'm so much excited, when I want to talk about this topic because whenever I see my student or even the young engineers, the way they think is totally different, and I think we all have to learn a lot from them as well. We have to, uh, really be humble and try to listen to them more than expecting them to listen to us because they have a better idea than what we have.
Yes,
Back to you.
actually, I totally agree with you, Dr. Gobi. I think after being an educator for so long, I also understand that we really need to listen to the young generation because they really have very creative ways of coming up with a solution which you and I would not have thought of. And
Correct.
their solution is so much easier,
Cheaper,
it's
cheaper.
probably more environmental friendly. So we just have to give them the opportunity. I
Correct.
don't think that, just because we are the educators, you listen to us. I think the model of teaching nowadays is no longer that. It's a
No.
two-way communication between the educator and the student.
Yes, you
So
are right. Because
maybe
yeah,
you can,
yeah,
yes, Dr. Gobi, please go ahead.
yeah. So that's why the classroom. Because 20 years I'm teaching, I can since I see the huge difference in terms of the mindset, the way they think. So I personally we changed a lot in terms of teaching as well. We try to have more discussion based, throw them at topics, throw them at problems, technical problems, the real problems. Uh, think about the solution. Let us discuss about some issues and then come up with the ideas. Then that is where we try to fit in some of the technical knowledge that they might need to use with their whatever the creativity and innovation they have. So the classroom activities actually change a lot. Instead of last time, the lecturer will be like talking and they will be listening. But I think now even the students they are prepared, so much prepared even before they come to the classroom, because they have that access, fingertips. Google is there and things like that, YouTube. So they are prepared and they ask a lot of questions which never happened before. So when they ask question, it's like that makes us to think, oh my goodness, we never thought about this, and we have to. In fact, we are studying very hard now because for us to go and teach the student, we have to actually get prepared even more than before because they actually come out with a lot of good and great questions, which makes us to think, yeah, that is actually a good possibilities. Back to you.
Okay, Dr. Gobi, thanks so much. Yeah, actually, I actually agree 100% with what you are saying. Which comes to also, I think it's important for you to highlight to some of our viewers today. I think some of them are probably in a lot of perception that engineering is all about mathematics and formulas and drawings, but they fail to see that there is a lot of soft skills that the engineers today need to bring with them when they want to design solutions. So maybe you can elaborate about one or two soft skills that you think is required by the engineers.
Obviously, now number one is I will always say that the team work in the team. So you should be have the skill because working in a team is a skill. For me, and of course communication. So communication skill, but just communication skill is not enough. But communication skill plus working in the team because as engineers, as you can imagine that we don't work alone most of the time because when there's a project, so we actually working with different level of people and different with a different background. Sometimes they are technicians, sometimes they are principal engineer or managers or even the clients. So and you have to work together, put them together, and you have to maintain that team until the entire project is over. So the teamwork, the communication skill, presentation skills. So in fact, these are the skills that we try to really brush up during the class hours. Any subject that we teach, we always have ask them to talk, come in front and do the presentation, throw out your ideas, discussion among your friends, and we always treat them like engineers because they have to put them as engineers, and as engineers what you will do when you are in this situation. when you have a group of people, how do you talk? So I think that is something that is very, very important, because having a good knowledge, but you are not able to manage or communicate and manage the team, I think that is going to be difficult for you to move the project. So communication skill, teamwork, right? Presentation skills, all these soft skills are, we are really looking into it seriously.
Yes, I agree. And I think from your discussion today, I also have concluded that the aspiring engineer needs to be very socially sensitive to the communities and the environment's requirements. So, this is the social perspectiveness that we find that the engineers today, they tend to have this. They are very sensitive towards, what solution is actually required to help the environment, to help the society, to help the aging population, that kind of thing. So if you are somebody with a natural instinct to be sensitive towards solving other problems, I think, Dr. Gobi, maybe you will agree or disagree that if you have this instinct, then maybe you should uh, consider trying to be an engineer, because engineering actually helps people to solve everyday problems,
Yeah,
right?
that's a fundamental anyway. So if you go back and look into a definition of engineers, basically we are, um, engineers are usually, they come up with the solutions or products or technology that actually help the society. That's actually our main target. For example, you have handphone, you have so many things. We have a 5G system, we have medical. Just take an example of medical application nowadays. There are so many invention that is required. Electrical system, it's a complete electrical system for medical. We have detection system of cancer, and then even the curing, the diagnostic system. There's so many systems that actually use electrical system now, electrical equipments, that is actually developed by engineers, of course. Because why? Because there's a need. Society needs this. There's a lot of cases. People need this. They need to improve the life of these people, and we come out with a lot of equipments. So that is actually the basic. In fact, the reason why the engineers are there in this world. We always come out with something. We built bridge. Civil engineers build the bridge because for the convenience of people to travel. We have a road. We have a telecommunication tower because everyone need to communicate. So things like that. So yes, the engineers, if you notice, the electrical engineers, they are, we are always doing, whether you realize it or not, daily basis, what we are doing is we are helping people, right? Whatever we do, whatever we do, it is always about some advancement to improve the life of the people. It's always that. It's always that.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Gobi.
Right.
So, what would your advice, okay, be to those students who are aspiring to be electrical engineers, but they have some hesitation about, signing up for electrical degree or taking electrical engineering as a career path? Maybe you can say one or two words to them.
Okay. The electrical engineers, as I actually mentioned, maybe as you mentioned just now, they are worried about the maths, so many things, right? I think the basic thing, because they were somehow in the school, the maths is something, not everyone love maths. I know, I understand. And even some people, they don't love science. They are having a good knowledge, just that probably they are not excellent in that subject. But you need to understand that, at the end of the day, I always believe it's a fundamental. It's a fundamental, right? So the basic thing, once you have the basic thing, because the actual thing that is happening nowadays, as I said from the beginning, a lot of thing has changed. We have computers that actually does a lot of things for you. Okay,
Right.
you actually no need to do a lot of heavy mathematics stuff.
Yes.
We have to understand that mathematics stuff is actually done by the computers. So, as engineers, what we do is we are more into the thinking process, the innovation, the creativity, which machine will never able to do. You can come up with the most advanced robots in the world, but I don't think they will have enough creativity like people. So that is actually something that we wanted to tell everyone, especially the electrical engineers, because I will be talking to them. I say that you need to be creative. Okay, that is what people are looking at you. Yes, you know what is 1 plus 1 is 2. Everyone knows that. But how do you use that 1 plus 1 equals to 2? The creativity. So that is actually, and that is something that every one of you are good at this generation, as I mentioned from the beginning. So I don't think that you should be hesitate to actually join electrical engineering program, particularly because mathematics and science is a fundamental. You already have that. We don't expect you to have to what they call it, like excellent in calculus and so on, because you have the fundamental of calculus. The rest of it the computers will do for you. Okay, so you don't need to do so much heavy mathematics. We don't do it. Even now engineers, they don't do that.
Right.
When is the last you do calculus, IR Shiva?
I cannot remember.
Yes, but we do use calculus, okay, just to explain the fundamental. They have to understand why the calculus was used, but not to really elaborate and derive and all that. That is done by the computers. Let the computer do that job. Let us use the gift that's given by the God, which is creativity and innovation. We use them for the our come out with a better service, better products, better technology, and advancements. Right? So no need to worry. It is not about maths and science. Yes, math and science is important, but we are not expecting a brilliant, excellent someone can actually do a 10 pages of derivation of calculus. No, 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 please. If anyone comes with that, I myself will be scared of to teach him seriously. So please just come in because it's very enjoying because so much um, creativity is actually involved now in engineering a lot. You know, as you can see, we have a 5G system, electric vehicles, smart grid, so many. Just I think the list is like long-lived drone system, IoT, probably Internet of Things. Just long list where the electrical engineers are going to be used. In fact, if you have a question to ask, where can electrical engineers end up working? I think I should rephrase that question. Can you find any place where the electrical engineers is not needed? Because I was like browsing and my students always ask me, I always ask them the question, can you just tell me one place where the electrical engineers is not needed? I think that is much easier to explain than explaining where the electrical engineers would be because it's a long list.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree 100%. They are probably in the background everywhere.
Yes,
Nobody really notices them, but it's only when something goes wrong that we realize that, my God, there's been somebody at the back running the show for me, and this person was the electrical engineer.
correct.
Okay?
Because the power system, entire power system, just imagine you have data centers, you have your mobile. If they don't maintain the power to that data centers, you won't have a data. That means entire mobile phone is going to be just sleeping there. That means nowadays people don't have a WhatsApp and internet. They're like they're half dead. You know they're half dead. They will say, oh come on, I cannot do anything because everything is based on WhatsApp and internet.
Correct.
So if don't maintain the data centers, which is behind the scene, electrical engineers there maintaining the power, and maintaining the data centers there, if they shut down just for even 1 hour, there's millions of losses we are talking about. All right. So it's a huge prospect for electrical engineers. And now the supply is getting lower, demand is getting bigger. So we need youngsters to come and join and replace all of us. We cannot be maintaining all these systems too long, correct or not?
Yep, we need to retire also, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so with that, I think we have come to the end of the discussion. Thank you so much, IR Gobi. It has been extremely insightful. Okay, and
You.
I believe that the viewers online who have been with us since 10 o'clock, you have learned a lot. And you suddenly realize that, there is a niche thing that electrical engineers can do. It's no longer just about the power, it's no longer about just, the wires, but there are so many other things that electrical engineering is actually doing, and there is a scope for you to further your career and get involved in R&D, research and development, and innovation. So once again, for the viewers, you can actually sign up for your attendance on the link that is provided in the chat box. All right, so the e-cert will be emailed to you. And for Dr. Gobi, thank you very much for your time. And
Yep.
we wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you very much.
And viewers, please remain with us. At 11 o'clock, we have another very interesting discussion which will be shared to you by Professor Fabian Koo on 3D printing. So, see you all later in a little while. Stay tuned.